The hospital buzzed with the quiet intensity of the night shift, the corridors bathed in the sterile glow of fluorescent lights. As a nursing student fulfilling my clinical hours at an old hospital, the night offered a unique canvas for learning and discovery. Little did I know that the shadows that swayed in the corners of the hospital would unveil a world beyond the textbooks. The air, tinged with the antiseptic scent of the hospital, carried a silent energy that seemed to amplify with each passing hour. As I navigated the labyrinthine hallways, the quiet murmurs of the night nurses and the soft beeping of monitors became my nocturnal companions. My clinical rotation led me to the heart of the hospital, the critical care unit. The dimly lit rooms housed patients tethered to machines that monitored every heartbeat and breath. The weight of responsibility settled on my shoulders as I observed the seasoned nurses navigate the delicate dance of care, their movements measured and purposeful. My first patient, an elderly woman with weary eyes, became my introduction to the complexities of nursing. The soft rhythm of her labored breaths underscored the urgency of the care we provided. As I assisted with routine tasks, the seasoned nurses offered guidance, their words a melodic blend of experience and compassion. As the night deepened, a peculiar sense of stillness enveloped the critical care unit. The monitors emitted a symphony of beeps and alarms, each sound a heartbeat in the night. The patients, ensconced in the cocoon of their illnesses, slept in restless patterns, their dreams woven with the threads of hope and healing. Then, a hushed urgency cut through the quiet.
Code blue, room 305.
A code blue echoed through the corridors, a signal that summoned the medical team into action. Adrenaline surged through my veins as I rushed to the scene, the clinical lessons from textbooks converging with the raw reality of the moment. The patient, a middle-aged man with a history of heart disease, lay motionless on the bed. The medical team moved with a synchronized efficiency, their training transforming the chaotic scene into a well-choreographed ballet of life-saving measures. Chest compressions, defibrillator shocks, and the urgent calls for medications melded into a symphony of resuscitation. Amid the chaos, the seasoned nurses guided me through the process, their calm demeanor a testament to the resilience cultivated through years of experience. As we fought to revive the faltering heartbeat, the fragility of life became palpable, a truth etched into the folds of my nursing scrubs. The man's eyes fluttered open, a gasp of life reclaiming the silent room. Relief washed over the medical team, the victory of revival carved into every tired face. As the chaos subsided, the night regained its quiet rhythm, the monitors returning to their steady cadence. The hours wore on, each patient assessment, a mosaic of challenges and triumphs. Yet, as the night deepened, a subtle shift occurred. The hospital, a bastion of healing, also harbored stories that transcended the realm of medicine. In the corners of the critical care unit, whispers of the supernatural began to circulate among the nursing staff. Tales of unexplained phenomena, flickering lights, mysterious shadows, and the occasional eerie wail echoing through the empty corridors became a part of the hospital's nocturnal lore. One night as I checked on a sleeping patient, a soft rustle caught my attention. I turned to see a shadowy figure standing at the foot of the bed. Startled, I blinked, and the figure dissipated like mist. A chill raced down my spine as I questioned whether the fatigue of the night had played tricks on my senses. As the weeks passed, the hospital's night shift unveiled its enigmatic side. Nurses spoke in hushed tones of encounters with apparitions, spectral figures that seemed to traverse the boundaries between the living and the unknown. The seasoned nurses, with their weathered expressions, shared tales of inexplicable events that had become an integral part of their nightly routine. One night, as I sat at the nurses' station documenting patient care, the lights flickered, casting an ephemeral dance of shadows on the walls. A soft whisper, indiscernible yet haunting, seemed to linger in the air. The seasoned nurses exchanged knowing glances, a silent acknowledgement of the spectral presence that had become a nightly companion. In the midst of these creepy stories, my nursing education continued. The hospital's night shift became a classroom, where the lessons extended beyond the confines of medical textbooks. The seasoned nurses, with their whispered stories of the supernatural, taught me that healing transcends the physical realm, that sometimes the cure lies in the mysterious interplay between science and the unexplained. As I completed my clinical hours, the hospital's night shift left an enduring mark on my journey into nursing. The dichotomy of life and death, science and the supernatural, became threads woven into the fabric of my understanding. The hospital, with its silent corridors and haunted tales, became a canvas where the art of nursing extended beyond the visible and ventured into the realm of the unknown. The clock struck midnight, the quiet rumble of the city muted by the enveloping darkness. Fresh out of rehab, I lay in bed, wrestling with the delicate balance between sobriety and the haunting memories of my past. The room felt cavernous, the walls echoing with the silence that hung in the air. The phone rang, piercing the stillness like an unwelcome intruder. My heart quickened its pace as I fumbled for the receiver, a sense of trepidation gnawing at the edges of my newfound serenity. With a shaky breath, I answered the call, my voice a hesitant whisper. "Hello?" I ventured, the word hanging in the air like a fragile hope. Silence greeted me, an oppressive void that seemed to stretch into eternity. Just as I was about to hang up, a voice, low and chilling, spoke from the other end. "Did you enjoy that last sip? The warmth of the bottle against your lips?" A cold sweat broke across my forehead as the words registered. The voice knew intimately the struggle I had faced with addiction, the demons I had fought to overcome in the sterile halls of rehab. Panic clawed at the edges of my composure as the voice continued its sinister monologue. "It's funny, isn't it, how easily we slip back into old habits, how the allure of the bottle can erase months of progress." The words hung in the air like a weight, the specter of temptation casting a long shadow over my newfound sobriety. I stammered, my mind a whirlwind of confusion and fear. "Who is this? How do you know?" The voice cut through my protestations, each word laced with an unsettling intimacy. "The third step, surrendering to a higher power. Did you really think it would be that easy? That your past wouldn't catch up with you?" Dread pooled in the pit of my stomach as the midnight caller delved into the darkest recesses of my history, recounting the struggles and triumphs I had shared in confidence with my support group and therapists. The voice seemed to possess an omniscient knowledge, as if it had peered into the very depths of my soul. With each revelation, the room closed in around me. The fragile sanctuary of my recovery shattered, replaced by the haunting specter of an unknown caller who seemed to revel in exposing the vulnerabilities I had fought so hard to conceal. As the night wore on, the calls continued, each one more invasive than the last. The voice taunted me with the fragility of my sobriety, painting a grim picture of an inevitable relapse. The midnight caller became a malevolent force, a shadowy figure that loomed over my attempts to rebuild my life. Days turned into sleepless nights as the disturbing calls persisted, an unrelenting reminder that the past, with all its ghosts, refused to stay buried. I questioned my sanity, wondering if the voice was a manifestation of my own fears, or a malevolent presence that sought to drag me back into the abyss. In a desperate bid for answers, I contacted the local authorities, hoping to trace the calls and unmask the identity of the midnight caller. Yet each attempt proved futile, the voice eluding capture like a phantom in the night. As the calls continued, I found solace in the support of my fellow recovering addicts. They became a lifeline, a source of strength in the face of the relentless torment inflicted by the midnight caller. Together, we navigated the storm, determined to protect the fragile tapestry of our sobriety from unraveling. The breakthrough came when one of my friends, a fellow recovering addict, recognized the voice during one of the calls. It belonged to a former acquaintance, someone who had once shared the same struggles with addiction but had succumbed to the demons we fought so hard to conquer. Confronting the midnight caller, we found a tortured soul, consumed by resentment and jealousy. The voice, once menacing, now wavered with vulnerability as the person confessed to the bitterness that had fueled their cruel campaign. In the end, empathy triumphed over animosity. Rather than seeking retribution, we extended a hand of understanding, urging the midnight caller to confront their own demons and seek the help they so desperately needed. The haunting call ceased, replaced by the cathartic release of a soul unburdened by the weight of resentment. As I hung up the phone, the room fell silent once again. The specter of the midnight caller, which had haunted my nights and threatened my sobriety, faded into the recesses of memory. I lay in bed, the echoes of that tumultuous period still reverberating in my mind. Recovery, I realized, was an ongoing journey, a winding path marked by unforeseen challenges. The midnight caller, with their unsettling knowledge and haunting words, had become a chapter in that journey, a reminder that, even in the darkest hours, the strength of the human spirit could triumph over the shadows of the past. Deep in the heart of the remote forest, where the trees stood like ancient monoliths and the only sounds were the rustle of leaves and the distant call of nocturnal creatures, I ventured into the unknown, seeking solace in the embrace of Mother Nature. Little did I know that the tranquility of the woods would soon be shattered by an encounter with the enigmatic figures that would forever haunt the corners of my mind. The decision to embark on a solo camping trip was born out of a desire to disconnect from the prison of everyday life, to find relief in the silent symphony of the wilderness. Armed with a tent, a backpack, and a heart hungry for solitude, I ventured deep into the heart of the forest, where the sunlight struggled to penetrate the dense canopy overhead. As I set up my campsite, a subtle unease settled over me. The air seemed charged with an energy that transcended the ordinary, as if the trees themselves were guardians of secrets untold. Ignoring the whispers of doubt, I steeled myself for a night in the wilderness, convinced that the solitude would bring the peace I sought. As night descended, the forest transformed into a realm of shadows and mystery. The crackling of the campfire provided a feeble barrier against the encroaching darkness. I sat alone, gazing into the flames, my thoughts drifting into the wilderness of the mind. That's when I felt it. An inexplicable gaze that bore into my very soul. A prickling on the back of my neck. A subtle awareness that I was not alone in the vast expanse of the woods. I dismissed it as the paranoia that often accompanies solitude. But the feeling persisted, like an apparition lingering in the shadows. As the fire waned, the forest revealed its secrets. Silhouettes moved among the trees, elusive figures that seemed to materialize from the very darkness itself. They stood in the periphery of the campfire's glow, their forms shifting and contorting in the dancing shadows. The air grew thick with a sinister tension, and a hushed cry seemed to emanate from the depths of the woods. I strained to catch the words, but they eluded comprehension, a language foreign to mortal ears. Fear gripped me as the realization dawned. I was not alone, and the shadows harbored entities beyond my understanding. The figures emerged from the darkness, revealing themselves as if summoned by the very essence of the forest. They moved with an awkward grace, their bodies contorting in unsettling ways that defied the laws of nature. The campfire flickered, casting distorted shadows that danced with the cryptic figures. A voice within my mind, creatures of legend, shapeshifters, that traversed the boundary between animal and human. A family of enigmatic entities, their red hollow eyes gleaming with an intelligence that seemed to pierce through the veneer of my humanity. Paralyzed by a cocktail of fear and fascination, I watched as they circled the campfire, their eyes never leaving mine. The eldest among them, a towering figure with antlers that melded seamlessly with the shadows, held my gaze with an intensity that transcended the mortal realm. As the night wore on, the entities retreated into the darkness, their ethereal forms blending with the shadows of the trees. Yet their watchful eyes lingered, a creepy, unsettling presence that haunted the edges of my perception. Sleep eluded me that night. Beneath the veil of the forest canopy, I lay in my tent, hyper-aware of the cryptic figures that seemed to materialize in the corners of my vision. Their cries, like hogs to slaughter, sounds that I cannot describe or perhaps refuse to articulate. Triggering the same intense feelings of sorrow, fright, and uneasiness inherited from my days with the USDA, the rustle of leaves in the wind, all played on the fringes of my consciousness, an unintelligible symphony that echoed through the night. With the first light of dawn, the forest seemed to exhale a sigh of relief. The shape-shifting creatures, elusive and enigmatic, retreated into the depths of the woods, leaving behind an atmosphere tinged with the residue of their presence. As I packed my belongings and emerged from the confines of my tent, the trees stood silent, their secrets guarded by the shadows. The memory of that unsettling night lingers, a ghostly imprint etched into the fabric of my being. The tribal-like creatures, elusive and enigmatic, have become a haunting presence in the recesses of my mind, a reminder that the mysteries of the wilderness transcend the boundaries of reality. I left the remote forest, the shadows of the entities trailing behind, like a newborn's cries, carried by the wind. The cryptic figures, watchers in the night, left an indelible mark on my soul, forever intertwining my journey into the wild, with the enigmatic dance of the shadows. In the woods,